Welcome to our Breakfast Club call. My name is Pamela Pacheco, and I have the absolute honor, pleasure, and privilege of being your host. Like every beautiful Thursday, if you're joining us for the first time, to our Breakfast Club call. My name is Pamela Pacheco. Welcome home. And if you are joining us once again, welcome. I remember when I first embarked upon entrepreneurship, I not only was looking forward to these type of morning mentorship calls because of the information I was going to receive, but I was looking forward to these type of morning calls because of the inspiration I was going to receive. See how you start your day sets the tone for your day. Garbage in is garbage out, and greatness in is greatness out. So kudos to each and every single one of you guys that decided to start your morning off with some fire this morning, with some positivity, with some greatness. Welcome, 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 welcome. So, if you guys joined us last week. And if this is your first time and you're like, you know what, I need to set these alarms, make sure you set the alarms, right? So, welcome to the Peak Performance Breakfast Club call brought to you by Chosen Global. And last week, we talked about peace in the process, how not only to stay grounded while growing your life, but your career, your business, leadership, or more than anything in your purpose, because peace is the foundation. And this week, we're going to talk about activation. And this message is for you, whether you are building a business, whether you are building a brand, whether you are growing your career, whether you are leading a team, whether you are building community, whether you are stepping into a new role in your community, in your job, in your career, in your life, whether you are navigating a transition or even elevating your identity. And today's topic, if you're taking notes, because note takers are history makers, I always say it is always best for you to take notes. The identity breakthrough. And as you're writing this down, the identity breakthrough, stepping into the version of you your assignment requires. Again, the identity breakthrough, stepping into the version of you your assignment requires. And while you guys do that, I'm going to sip my cafecito this morning. Yes, yes, yes. And I see, type in the chat as we're getting started where you're calling in from. I see we have Tampa, Florida. We have Jersey in the building. We have Philadelphia in the building. We have New York City. Jamaica, welcome, welcome Chicago, welcome Hawaii, welcome New York City, welcome each and every single one of you guys. And if you're watching the L, type live for the L. If you are watching R for replay. And as we get started, so why is this so important? Because whether you are a CEO, whether you are a creator, whether you are a professional, a student, a community builder, a parent, a dog dad or mom, your next level will always require a new level of identity. And a lot of people sometimes think, identity is just for entrepreneurs, or identity is what my roles are, or what my titles or my positions. And we spoke about this a few weeks ago. Your identity is when all of the titles go away, when all of the roles go away. Who are you? What is your belief system, right? What is the core principles? What is your purpose? Where are you on? And this is why identity is universal, not only for entrepreneurs, but it's the foundation of leadership positions. It's the foundation of community building. It's the foundation of promoting. It's the foundation of influence. It's the foundation of brand authority. It's the foundation of community impact. It's the foundation of opportunities. It's the foundation of financial blessings, right? Your income. It's the foundation of relationships. Above all, it is the foundation of purpose. And if you look up tons of Harvard research, it shows that your self-belief of who you think you are, but more than anything, who you are, of what your identity is, it dictates not only our performance, but it dictates our consistency, it dictates resilience, it dictates leadership, it dictates decision making in the workplace and in entrepreneurship, because identity is the difference between being overlooked and being chosen. It's the difference between invisible versus seen. It's the difference between you yourself being stagnant or versus being promoted versus being, growing. It's the difference between self-doubt versus confident execution. It's the difference between being a side hustler versus a founder or co-creator. It's the difference between being an employee and a leader. So if you're like, okay, Pam, well, I know identity is universal, and I know it's not just for entrepreneurs, I know it's for professionals, and I know it's all of these things. Why, why does this actually matter? And I'll tell you, kind of give you some background if you're joining us for the first time. So I got into the world of entrepreneurship 12 years ago, but I always wasn't this, right? I was a commercial banking expert. I was a commercial banking relationship manager. I started in the banking world as a licensed financial specialist, where I got my Series 6, my 63, my 215. I worked my way through college, right, in the insurance world. And starting in commercial banking, it is a male dominated industry. And still, I made space for myself. I didn't wait for permission. I did not wait for validation. I did not wait for the right title. I had more titles than a thermometer, because I went from being a personal financial banker with all of my licenses to being a business banker to being a commercial relationship manager to being vice president and all of these things. But the reality is that I stepped into the identity of a leader. I stepped into the identity of an innovator. I stepped into the identity of a go-getter, but more than anything, a strategist. I stepped into the identity of an advisor. I stepped into the identity of a professional. I stepped into an identity of an expert. Above all, I stepped into an identity of a problem solver. I stepped into an identity of someone that was absolutely resourceful, and I still am to this day. However, long before they called me any of those things, the identity is what prepared me and has laid the groundwork for entrepreneurship, for public speaking, for brand strategy, for corporate partners, for media presence, for travel and lifestyle, for coaching, for leadership, for all of these things. And this is not only something that you can see whether I am leading a trip, or I am leading a conference, or I am speaking like I am today at three different things, right? Whether I am at a producing a mindset event or a mastermind, whether I am producing mental health matters or women's circles or creators conference or leadership trainings, the reality is that identity work is leadership. Identity work breeds confidence. Like I love to say, Godfidence. Identity work breeds communication. It also is what breeds the emotional intelligence. It lays the groundwork for your personal brand, like it has for me. It lays the groundwork for you to have clarity. It increases your professionalism. And all of these things, yes, they're universal. But when we talk about, real world in corporate or business or in anything, employees with a strong identity awareness, did you know they're three times more likely to be promoted? And that is found by a 2023 Deloitte study. Shout out to my best friend Pilar that has been with them for over 20 plus years. But another article states that strong personal brands create 50 to 70% more career opportunities. So a lot of times people think, oh, well, building your personal brand, that's just for building your social media. And I don't have a business, or I don't have a product, and I don't need all of these things. But the reality is that if you're thinking, man, even in a career, I'm creating 50 to 70% more career opportunities, what does that mean? Identity is essential for everyone. So it's important, as you are taking notes, write this down. Who am I becoming in my profession? Who am I becoming in my community? who am I becoming in my business? And here's another thing that's equally as important. What identity do I need to embody to be promoted? What identity does a CEO version of me carry? What behaviors do I need to eliminate? And this is something that I had to have a come into Jesus moment with myself a few months ago. Because I was like, all right, we need to cut out certain things that are just not conducive. And it's not only so much cutting out some vices or cutting this out. No, it's also cutting out people pleasing, cutting out being in spaces, cutting out relationships that were not mutually reciprocating, right? Cutting out different things because the you have to always be conscious that what habits are going to match my next level. Whether you are building a business, whether you are building community, or even in the corporate world. Because the reality is everyone can answer these questions regardless of your gender or your industry. So if this message is something that you're like, well, this is definitely hitting my spirit, whether you are in business, whether you are building a career, whether you are leading a team or developing your personal brand, it's because it hits you in any shape, way, or form because it's about your identity transition. And you do not transition alone. And that's why it's also always important for you to be in community. You always hear me say commitment lasts longer in community. So, what I am doing in the next few days is leading a 5-day Build Your Brand Challenge for entrepreneurs, for working professionals, for leaders, for creatives, for business owners, for anyone ready to clarify their identity and elevate their brand. And this is for men and women across business, leadership, corporate careers, community building, because no matter what you do, your brand is your identity. Your brand is your influence. Your brand is your reputation and leadership all wrapped into one. So, what do these next 5 days are going to look like? Well, I'm going to help you activate your identity. I'm going to help you clarify what your message is. I'm going to help you build your brand pillars, which is absolutely important. I'm going to help you grow your digital presence. And more than anything, tell your story with authority and seamlessly combine all of this for a brand blueprint for monetization. Because a lot of people want to build businesses or they want to build communities, and all that is great, but you got to build the brand, then the business. And this challenge is going to give you the exact foundation that I actually use to build my business, my brand, my speaking career, travel empire, community. And if you're the person that's like, well, I'm definitely ready for this, right? I absolutely want more info. DM me challenge so that you can get the link, right? DM me the word challenge. You can get the link or just email me, connect with me at pamtheplug.com or follow me, whether it's on YouTube, if you're watching live on YouTube right now, or you're following this on Instagram, because no matter the field that you're in, your brand is your reputation. Your brand is your influence. Your brand is your confidence, your identity, all rolled together. And if you're the person that's like, well, Pam, I know you spoke about the questions that you told us to ask, because what does this exactly do when we're talking about invisible versus seen? What does this exactly mean between stagnant versus promoted, right? All of these things. And I think it's important the moment that you're able to own your identity, the moment that you're able to shift exactly who it is that you are, right? I think it's also equally as important for you to say, okay, well, this is what's not only going to allow me to stand out, but this is what's going to allow people to know the value that I bring. Because branding is your story and marketing is how you go about telling your story. So if you're the person that's like, well, I need to know what not only the difference is, right? Because it's important that I not only stand out in my career, but in my business, above all, in my community, above all, in my purpose? There are some things that you need to keep in mind, and also just take some time to just sit with these questions, because this is what's going to allow you to not only lay down the framework, but ask the questions that need to be asked so that you're able to get the most value from this. Because, see, I could put together the blueprint, I could give people all the tools, but if you're not ready to receive it, it doesn't matter. If you have zero indication of where it is that you're going or who it is that you want to be, none of that matters, right? So it's equally as important for you to ask yourself these questions and just sit with it, because you not only need to know who you are and what your identity is and what your brand, but maybe even asking yourself the questions that you want to ask so that you can get the most value from this challenge. Because I do believe that if you're the person that's like, well, I have big dreams, or I have a big community that I want to build, or I have big businesses that I want to build, but more than anything, I want to live a life of purpose. I want to live a life of impact. I want to live a life of legacies from generations to come that are going to outlive me. It is important that you are absolutely clear on what your brand messaging is, that you are absolutely clear on what your brand pillars are, that you're absolutely clear on what your brand identity is. And more than anything, that you have a blueprint that you're able to not only build a firm foundation, but that you're able to build upon that firm foundation. And if you're getting value from this, type a V in the chat. Yes, yes, yes. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And if you're the person that's like, well, Pam, tell me, elaborate a little bit more on like overlooked versus chosen. When you walk into a room, are you unclear about who you are? Do people feel it before you speak? When you walk into a room, are you rooted in identity? Because why does that matter? They choose you before you open your mouth. And that is a fact. And this is why, have you ever worked somewhere? And I remember being in banking, right? I could go back 12 years for y'all, 15 years. And I remember why two people can do the same job, but one person stands out. It's the punctual person, it's the person that's leading, it's the person that's not also leading, but that's listening, right? Because it's not always talent, it's not always the resume, it's the identity. Identity communicates confidence, it communicates presence, it communicates certainty, it communicates leadership, it communicates emotional authority. And let me give you another example of this in real time. Not only, yes, do people know when I am in any space, like people identify me, oh, the girl that's always nicely dressed, right? The girl that wears the nice hats, the girl that has the really pretty big smile, right? That is a part of my identity. But I'll tell you, even it's a part also of my identity in church, in the work that I do in ministry, in the work that we lead our women's business and professionals group, right? I also lead kids ministries. So a lot of the parents sometimes when they're giving feedback, they're like, yes, the girl with the nice big smile, the girl that is always so encouraging, the girl that's front row singing and worshiping during mass. And it's funny because when we were in a group chat, I'm in the middle of doing our Radiant Leadership Institute, and it is a year program, and we're like halfway done already, but so incredible. I digress. However, it's funny because we're in a group text, and it's a whole bunch of people from our actual campus. So everybody's like identifying yourself of like who you are. Well, I'm like, I'm the girl that sits in the front that only Jesus likes her singing, because I'm very aware that my voice is not the best, but God loves it. But it's important that we are all mindful that your identity communicates your presence, your identity communicates your confidence, your identity communicates your certainty, your identity communicates your leadership, your identity communicates your emotional authority. People choose the one who knows who they are. If you're taking notes, if you're writing anything down, remember this. People choose the one who knows who they are. So if you're talking about overlooked versus chosen, that's the difference. Let's go back to this notion of invisible versus seen. Because you're like, well, how do I stand out? Do I have to be loud? Do I have to be? No, no, no. Being yourself. Because you can be the hardest worker in the room. You could be the smartest person in the room and still be invisible if your identity is quiet. Now I'm gonna repeat that again. You can be the hardest worker, the smartest person in the room, and still be invisible if your identity is quiet. Why is that? Because identity is what makes your value visible. In entrepreneurship, what does this mean? It means showing up consistently. Ooh, let me tell y'all. Man, if you've been a part of our Breakfast Club community, you know this started off in coffee shops almost 10 years ago. Shout out to the beautiful city of Brockton, Massachusetts. And we transitioned a little bit prior to the about 2017, 2018, we transitioned into Zoom, right? Before Zoom, we were doing freeconferencecalls.com. If you guys remember those days, every single morning at 8 a.m. Even when I was taking care of my late mother as her caretaker, I would go right outside, sit right on the balcony, or go in the bathroom and still be consistently doing this call, building this community, adding value to people's lives because we're not new to this. We true to this. So showing up consistently matters in entrepreneurship. Showing up consistently for your goals, showing up consistently for your dreams, showing up consistently for your community. Here's another one. And what does this mean in entrepreneurship? Speaking in your authority, speaking in your authority. Also, positioning your expertise, letting people feel your presence online and offline. What does this mean at work? I know we got a lot of people that are career professionals on here. Shout out to each and every single one of y'all. Maybe watching this right now on your way to work, or you guys are already at work. This means speaking up in meetings. I know I got some people that are my introverts. It's okay. I'm an introverted extrovert. I know what that feels like. But speaking up in meetings, it doesn't mean that you have to be the loudest. It just means that you have to be the most certain. Because leaders are those who bring certainty into an environment where there rarely isn't any. So maybe you're that person that's like, I'm going to speak up today in my meeting. Yes, I encourage you to do so every single time. And it's not so much about letting your voice be heard or letting your power be present. No, but it's about being invisible versus being seen. And it's not only being seen, but it's also just being heard, speaking in your authority, positioning your expertise, right? Positioning your expertise. And how you do this is contributing ideas. You always hear me say this. Yes, your mindset is where your mind sits. If you think something is hard, it's going to be hard. Choose your hard. Choose your hard, right? Life is about choosing your hearts. But I will tell you this, when we talk about contributing ideas, and you've probably heard me say this before, and if you have, cool. If you haven't, write this down. Or just think about this for a moment. Did you know that cemeteries are the place that is the wealthiest in the world? And you're like, Pam, why? Because all those fancy tombstones, like, I guess. No, 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 no. Here's why. Because this is the place where so many people are buried with ideas, with goals, with dreams never fulfilled. Think about that for a moment. So many ideas that were never contributed, so much greatness that just died in the physical because somebody never materialized those thoughts to life. Oh, let me tell y'all, every time I hear about that, every time it does something to me, right? It like, let's go. Here's another one, being solution oriented. The name Pam the Plug came because my friends I've always been the most resourceful person they knew. Yes, it's the person that is not only unplugging you from what does not serve you, plugging into your power, your purpose, your calling, but it's also the person that's like, listen, let's be resourceful. Let's monetize your brand. Let's build your community. Let's use your gifts, right? Let's use your gifts to generate income, to generate impact from your talents, from the things that it is. So, being the person that is solution oriented, whether I'm building community or whether I'm building business, whether I'm building people, whether I'm building ministry, somebody talks to me about anything, I'm always the person that's like, that's amazing. And I'm always going to be a safe space to listen without judgment. You don't have to feel shame or guilt or fear or anything. However, I'm always the person that's going to be like, well, what's the solution to this? Because being solution oriented is key. And here's a big one that is very, very big in visibility, being invisible versus being seen, not shrinking because of imposter syndrome, not shrinking because of imposter syndrome. And you're like, well, Pam, I have no idea what imposter syndrome means. Cool. Imposter syndrome means that you don't think you're worthy or deserving of this greatness that you are not only embarking upon, that you are living. You don't think you're necessarily deserving of the greatness that is upon you. You don't think you're deserving or worthy of the accolades. You don't think you're necessarily worthy or deserving of the promotion, of the greatness that you're not only embarking upon, but people recognizing you, people seeing you for the value that you're adding, for the recognition that you're getting, more than anything, for the difference that you're making. You don't think you're necessarily deserving of living a life on purpose, a life full of abundance. And I will tell you that is a lie from the pits of hell. Here's another one that we can go a little bit deeper in. Stagnant versus promoted. You're like, well, I'm not at a job, Pam, or maybe you are. Well, promotions are not just about performance. They're about perception. Promotions are not just about performance, they're about perception. So if you're talking about, well, identity shapes perception, when your identity says, I'm capable, I'm a leader, I'm ready, I can handle more, guess what? Opportunities move towards you. So ask yourself, if your career is not growing, if your business is not growing, if your community is not growing, if your impact is not growing, if your legacy is not growing, when is your identity saying, I'm capable? Is your identity saying, I'm a leader? Is your identity saying, I'm ready? I can handle more? Because that is when opportunities move towards you. Your gifts will always make room for you. But when your identity says, I'm not ready, I'm not sure, oh my goodness, I don't want to make a mistake, promotions pass you by because people aren't promoted because they want more. They're promoted because they're becoming more. And that is the difference. Again, people aren't promoted because they want more. They're promoted because they're becoming more. And as always, if you're getting value from this type of V and the chats, I love it. I love it. I love it. Make sure you guys are sending comments to all attendees, for those of you that are joining us on Zoom and not on YouTube. So self-doubt versus confident execution is where my executors at. We're the people that is like, we on go 24/7. We're like, listen, it doesn't matter what's going on. And I always even tell myself, like I tell my mentees, like I tell my bestest of friends, it's like, look, we got 24 hours to cry, pout, get it out your system. Cause we ain't got time not to execute. We ain't got time not to get it done. So when you talk about self-doubt versus confident execution, self-doubt is an identity deficiency, where confidence is an identity decision. I'm going to say that again. Self-doubt is an identity deficiency, whereas confidence is an identity decision. So Confidence, like I like to say, it doesn't mean that you know everything. It means that you trust yourself through everything. Again, it doesn't mean that Godfidence, confidence, however you want to call it, right? I know I say confidence, but it doesn't mean that you know everything, but it just means that you trust yourself enough through everything. And I'll give you an example of this. A few months ago, maybe like a month ago. It was last month, right? We're not November. Yes, last month in October, we were my business partner and I, and you guys know him from his work as a holistic life coach. He also does his breakfast club call morning every Tuesday. Josh Valentine, aka the World Traveler. So we were on TV at the local NBC station talking about our creators conference, right? It was our second annual creators conference, and we were in the last days of the press run prior to the event, like we always have every year. So absolutely amazing. Well, as I was getting to the station, the producer's like, hey, so we had somebody cancel, and we would love for you to talk about confidence and how confidence is important as you're building an entrepreneurial journey. And if you could just kind of bless us a little bit for like a 5-minute show. Mind you, I'm not prepared to talk about this because I set my intentions and my plan was to go with my business partner to talk about our creators conference, which I was alleviated that I was not the only one talking because I didn't really have my brain is always on go. My brain is always having to turn on. If you know, right? Who can relate to that? So I was like, great, I ain't got to do that today. This is fire. God had other plans. So, am I going to sit here and tell you that I knew everything that I had to talk about confidence? I mean, it's debatable, but no, I didn't know everything. But here's what I did know. I trusted myself to get through it. I trusted my gifts were making room for me. Gifts generating income and impact from your talents. I trusted myself enough that said, I'm going to be able to add value. This is why I was chosen for such a time as this. So, did I know everything that I was going to talk about? No. Was a lot of things me just flowing with the conversation with the speaker? Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So, what does that mean? When your identity is weak, you overthink. Anybody overthink ever? I used to do that all the time. When you're and from time to time I still do, right? When I'm embarking upon something new or if it's a new challenge, and I immediately catch myself. I immediately, when that happens, I hold that thought captive and switch it out. When your identity is weak, you also over apologize. When your identity is weak, you also second guess. Have you ever been in that? Yes, yes. Me too. Me too. Again, hold the thought captive and switch it out, right? When your identity is weak, you procrastinate. Was the master procrastinator. What? College? You couldn't tell me nothing. Even through getting my MBA. Let me tell you, I had a 20-page paper due, a 25-page paper due. We are doing it the morning of. We are doing it the night before, and I'ma still ace that bad boy. I just worked best. I conditioned my mind to like I work best under pressure. I could get it done. And a lot of times it wasn't that I wanted to wait last minute, right? Even when I have like speaking engagements and I have projects and slides and all these things, it's not that I wanted to wait till last minute. It's not that I necessarily wanted to procrastinate, but it was just that I had so much on my plate and I was doing my best to kind of like strategize or put the stuff where it needed to go. And here's what also happens when your identity is weak. You hide your gifts, you hide yourself, you shrink yourself, and above everything, you sabotage opportunities. When your identity is strong, on the other hand, you execute with clarity, you execute with speed, you execute with courage, you execute with leadership, you execute with grace, you execute with authority. Confidence, confident execution not only changes your income, but it changes your influence and your impact. Even if you're the person that's, yes, and I'm going to repeat that again. Somebody said, repeat that again. Yes. Confident execution not only changes your income, but confident execution changes your influence and your impact. Side hustler versus a founder. And you're like, what? Go back to that, Pam. Cool. Identity is what turns a small thing that I do on the side into I'm the CEO of my brand. Identity is what turns a small thing that you do on the side to I'm the CEO of my brand. Because identity determines how you show up, identity determines how you market, identity determines how you serve, identity determines how you price and get your coins, identity determines how you're perceived, identity even determines how you make decisions. Yes. Identity determines how you scale. A side hustler waits on things. A founder leads and go gets it. A side hustler reacts. A founder prepares so that they can respond accordingly. A side hustler hides their gifts. A founder shares their value. Your identity decides which one it is that you become. So choose wisely. And as we wrap this up, employee versus leader. You don't need a title to be a leader. You don't need this extravagant position. You don't need all of these things. Identity makes you a leader long before the title arrives. Leadership identity is also emotional intelligence, it's self awareness, it's consistency, it's courage, it's communication, it's responsibility, but it's willing to go first. It's willing to go first. It's willing to get laughed at. It's willing to get ridiculed. It's willing to do all of the things. Because leadership, ladies and gentlemen, it is not a job description, it is an identity description. Remember, always, people will follow the identity, not the position. So, let me ask you, which identity are you leading with right now? Is it the old version of you? Is it the confused version of you? Is it the uncertain version of you? Is it the tired version of you or the becoming version of you? Is it the one aligned with your assignment? Because your identity will either open doors or delay them. Your identity will either promote you or keep you stuck. Your identity will either elevate your brand or it will hide your brilliance. And this is exactly why I'm hosting this 5-day Build Your Brand Challenge, because your brand cannot grow until you grow. So your identity is the foundation of your personal brand, of your professional brand, and your leadership voice. So DM me ready or DM me challenge and I will send you the link. So, as we wrap this up, I want you guys to repeat some, I'm very big on affirmations and just more than anything, leaving you guys on the high. But I want you guys to repeat after me. I am becoming the person my assignment requires. I am becoming the person my assignment requires. I lead with confidence, clarity, and purpose. I am becoming the person my assignment requires. I lead with confidence, clarity, and purpose. My identity influences every room I step into. My identity influences every room I step into. I am ready for the next level, professionally and personally. As always, it is a pleasure, honor, and privilege to serve you. Breakfast has been served. I appreciate you guys. DM me ready, and we will see you next time on our Breakfast Club call. Have a great day.